Is Ruby Franke a psychopath? Well, come on. That's not even a diagnosis in the DSM-5. It's like the same question everybody asked when Lori Vallow was on trial. Is she a psychopath? They want every forensic psychologist to weigh in. And I'm Dr. Anderson. I am a licensed forensic psychologist, and I evaluate people like this every day in custody. And I know... So Ruby Franke and her business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt, they were arrested for child abuse charges. And the most interesting thing to me about that is Jodi Hildebrandt is a licensed professional clinical counselor in the state of Utah. And she got into some trouble before where she was on probation for breaching confidentiality and sort of like blackmailing members of the church to pay her exorbitant fees, or she would just tell the others about what they were up to. So that was super shady and illegal and frankly embarrassing for the rest of us mental health professionals. So do you think they should have do you think mental health professionals should have psychological evaluations to determine if they're fit for duty before they get licensed? I'm a psychologist, and we had to do some level of that. I had to do 40 sessions with a licensed psychologist before I could graduate. Law enforcement officers, CHP officers, firefighters, they do fitness for duty evaluations, full psychological evaluations, okay? And I've seen them, so I know what that's all about. And I think some of these licensed mental health professionals should, because I see them after they're in trouble with the law. And then I'm ordered to evaluate them. And some of the questions I'm asked is, what is their diagnosis, and are they safe to continuing practicing? And if not, what is the plan, treatment plan, and how long, what I recommend? And so this is why I wanted to weigh in on this case, Jodi Hildebrandt, and I asked this question on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and no one answered it. No one would answer the question if they think mental health professionals should have a psychological evaluation. And I tend to think they do. I was on a podcast show a couple weeks ago, Surviving the Survivor, and I talked about Lucy Ledby, who was a nurse, a licensed nurse working in the UK, and she was just killing babies. I think she killed at least 6, and she was convicted, and so she's a baby killer. And they really could have stopped that much sooner. There were some problems there. There was some hospital poor oversight. If that person would have had a psychological evaluation, you're going to see some problems. You're going to see things like, you don't think that people aren't always high on psychopathy. People aren't all bad, all villains. You're going to see some other personality disorders in there that you might be surprised about. And it's not always just narcissistic traits. It could be even dependent personality. You're going to see sometimes even multiple personality disorders. And a lot of times people are also struggling with a substance use problem and having anxiety or depression. And so there's lots of things going on. So I just want to open up people's minds. Sometimes you read the headlines, you're like, psychopath. And I get people call me on the phone, they say, my ex is a psychopath. Can you verify that with me? Like, it's not even a diagnosis from the DSM-5. Like that's, I have evaluated thousands and thousands of psych evals, and it's very interesting, but you're going to see a lot of things going on. And so if I were to evaluate Ruby Franke or Jodi Hildebrandt, I would go in there, I would listen to understand and evaluate them, and I would answer the legal question, whatever that was. It could be, are they competent to stand trial? Which we saw with Lori Vallow. She wasn't competent for a period of time. I think it was like 8 months, and then she was found competent. And so that's one type of evaluation I do. Sometimes I'm called or ordered by the court to evaluate for sentencing recommendation and things like that. So another question that people are asking is, How can they let her out on bail? Well, they let people out on bail all the time, and honestly, it saves money. It's not like she's going to go anywhere. And it gives time for people to get their affairs in order, or their legal matters in order. That someone can be charged, but they're not convicted. So she still would have to go to court for this. So they haven't been convicted yet. There's only alleged charges. So this is part of the judicial process. I see lots of people get out on bail. I was just in the jail tonight and interviewing a defendant in custody for competency to stand trial. So I do evaluations like this a lot. So feel free to ask me any questions. I would say post below what your thoughts are about licensed mental health professionals having a psychological evaluation. I would love to hear from you. I posted that on LinkedIn and Facebook, and just crickets. No one would answer the question, and I don't really know why. I don't know why people are afraid to answer that. I frankly think that they should. I think that everyone going into a licensed field should be evaluated, and or pay for an evaluation on your own and get evaluated by a psychologist, just to make sure that there's not some underlying problem that you can't cope with later, because it's important. And mental health is on a spectrum, and I think that everyone should at some point see a psychologist or a therapist in their life. Not Jodi Hildebrandt therapist, though.